All right, in this session, we're going to get into the art and science of negotiation in the tactic side. So we're going to talk about the different strategies or tactics and then recognize how cultural differences can play a role in some negotiations. So in the lecture section of this module, you should have seen a link that says click here and download a form. So this document outlines the tactics I'm going to cover on the next page, and it gives you a description of each tactic, and then there's a box for comments, so you can write down things like when would you use these, whatever comments are the most appropriate for your understanding of these individual tactics. Now, I can honestly say I've used some of these, not all of them. Some I consider better than others as far as my skill. The tactics you use should have a purpose, and they should be the outline in the purpose of what you're trying to achieve in that negotiation. So here are some of the big ones. The first one is a low ball tactic. And I've been privy to this one many, many times in my purchasing career. A supplier comes in, they hand me an offer that is ridiculously low, just stupid low. And I know exactly what they're doing. They are trying to get their foot in the door, potentially into the company. They've never done business with us. They want to impress. And what's likely going to happen, though, is that price will gradually increase over time to a normal, realistic price. So suppliers do this mostly because they know it's hard to get into your company. They really want to get in there. They probably aren't going to make any money on that first product, and that's probably why they're going to ask for a price increase later. But if they lowball you going in, they know you can't refuse, especially if you are desperate for a price reduction or a price change. So the things that you gotta weigh out when you're doing your total cost of ownership or your sourcing strategy is, are you going to be getting what you pay for? Low price, low service, whatever. You need to understand that supply continuity is also one of the objectives of purchasing. So a lowball offer can be done. You can do that in offering them and saying, well, we think the price should be this, and it's ridiculously low. What you do is you're setting a level that they will then have to work from, a platform. So it is a valid tactic. It can be annoying if you see what's coming at you and it's a low ball and you can, like I've seen this before. So be cautious in using low ball. Another method that is praised for winning over people in the win-win type environment is honesty and openness. Now there's a line here. Okay, we want to stick to the facts. We want to stick to why are we here? What is our motivators? How are we being measured? But this is appropriate when parties to two companies are entering negotiation they've been doing business with for a long time, and the working relationship's a good one. And there's a lot of mutual trust. So you can share things like, okay, this is what I'm being told by my management. Just being honest with you, this is where we're going with this. Can you help me overcome this? This is a great way to build your understanding of your supplier and them understanding you. So it does take mutual trust, but it's a good way to data mine too. Figure out what's going on with them. They may tell you things in this opening and honesty approach they would not normally tell you because they feel that you're being vulnerable, and you are. So it isn't a tactic to be shady. It is a tactic actually to get to that win-win. So it is approachable. Now, the next one of questions. I call this the toddler method, where you just keep asking questions. Well, you're not saying why over and over again like a toddler would, but what you're doing is you're asking questions that are meaningful, that ones that can help the party reveal more about what their position is and what their interests are if you don't have that information going in or you're unable to get it before you go in. Things like, well, that's an interesting perspective. Can you explain to me where that's coming from? What are your goals and initiatives this year? Open-ended questions, ones that require the supplier to answer in complete sentences instead of saying yes or no. Then those questions also, because people like to talk about themselves, allow companies, individuals speak about what's going on with them, where do they fit in the picture, gives them a time of reflection, and again, gives you more information than probably what you even asked for in the beginning. It's a good way to start things out as well. There is a method called a caucus method. I've never seen this used, but I've seen it used on television. So this method is where you actually take time out in a negotiation. Now, maybe I just haven't been in that higher powered negotiation that requires this. But you're working through some issues, and you go, okay, let's take a time out. They leave the room, take a break, and regroup. I can see this happening if things are going bad, and you have that option to stop things. You go, okay, I just need a time out, need to process things, and we can reconvene. This may also be appropriate if your negotiations are going longer, or if lunch isn't being brought in during the negotiation process. Take some time out, go eat, come back, have energy, and go at it again. So this breaking of the pattern method is really what the whole purpose of the caucus is about. Usually when things are going bad, but it can be done during good times as well. It could also be phased in as breaks or times to regroup. It's okay. It's a method to break up the process. A trial balloon method is something that I dislike completely. And that's my own personal preference. Now, some of you may think this is great, but it reminds me of going into a car dealership. I pick on car dealerships unnecessarily, but I just don't like buying cars. When they go in and they say, oh, I want to offer this to you, but what do you think about this before I propose it to my manager? Because I got to have my manager buy off on it. Would you endorse this option? If so, would you go along with it? That whole, I'm going to throw this balloon out there and see if you take it. It may not even be the best offer. And they know that. But because we're offered this inside knowledge before management sees it, we could feel like, oh, we're special. Maybe this is the best deal. Oh, I'm putting him in an uncomfortable position, because we have empathy for people that are going through struggles, even if it's their job. So it puts one party on the spot, and their reaction to this trial balloon is it going to help that negotiator figure out, did I cross the line? Was that too easy? Maybe I should go a little bit higher. And they'll kind of negotiate based on reaction. So you got to be really good at reading people for this. And it also is a way of saying, is this going to work? Probably not. Okay, let's move on. And may end the negotiation right there. So the next tactic of price increase is what I mentioned previously, is where if you don't agree to the price or the condition, the price will soon increase. So this idea of, well, this is a limited time offer. I get these emails all the time. Tonight until midnight, and then the deal goes away. So hurry up. That's what we call a price increase negotiation. Like, things are going to change. So you might as well capitalize on it now. So you need to be well informed, not only if you're going to be offering this, but also if you're going to be accepting this. What they may not be telling you is true. In a sense, yeah, that deal will go away at the end of the night, or the end of this week, or end of this month, but it doesn't mean another deal is coming again. Kind of like these telecommunications, DirecTV, I don't want to pick on them only, but other telecommunications providers do the same thing. For a limited time only, you can get this phone for this amount, or this price for this many channels, and then the same year, that same offer is offered again. It's repetitive. It's not like there's just a base bottom deal. So be informed if you're going to enter that one-time limited offer kind of environment of negotiation, or going to offer that. Then you have the opposite end of the low ball, which is the high ball, which creates an interesting scenario when someone comes in and goes, well, I want this, and this, and it's ridiculously unusual position, abnormally high pricing, whatever the case may be. The logic is that, okay, I'm going to start high, and we can just chip away at that. And we'll probably end up somewhere near the middle, and that's fine. It's easier to chip away than it is to build up. So the high ball tactic can be used in things like, I want all these, you throw in your must-haves with your would like to haves, and then you can just start sacrificing your would like to haves in the negotiation until you get to where an acceptable must have position would be. Done this, it does work. It is, like I said, easier to chip away than add in the negotiation. Then we've got that infamous best and final offer tactic, when this is the end of the negotiation. This tactic is, if you are not ready to walk away, then do not do this. Do not. This is not fostering mutual communication. This is not fostering mutual agreement. What it is take it or leave it, or you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Either way, if it's not the final offer and you amend it, you just showed weakness. And that weakness then becomes the, oh, we can just keep on chipping away. So it's kind of the equivalent of when bands come out and they do a concert and they're like, thanks, this is our final song. They walk off stage. And if you just stand there and clap loud enough, everyone just knows they're coming out again. And they're going to at least do one more song. So it wasn't their final offer, their last song. Really, they had a couple more in the bank, right? It's the same kind of concept. You can lose credibility. So much so when you go to a concert, now you just know that if you just stand there and clap and cheer loud enough, they're going to come back. They've lost credibility of the final song. They shouldn't even call it that. So when the bluff is called, be prepared to lose some credibility. Okay. Then there's this tactic called silence. Now this is a weird one, but it does work. I have actually used this. Silence makes people nervous. I'm the type where I could stare at a wall for days and I would be just fine. I don't need to say a word. Just who I am. But in a negotiation, when you're working with people and you got more than one person in the room, sometimes not saying anything is the best part of negotiation. One, the other person is going to try and fill in those gaps. They don't like the silence, so they're going to try and fill it with information or fluff. So if you just don't have anything to say and you want them to just keep on going, eventually they might weaken their position, or they may give up some information. If you don't have anything good or constructive or anything that is going to counter that argument, silence isn't acceptance. It's a non-reaction. You do not want to provide a reaction that will weaken your position. And sometimes if you're silent enough, they will interpret their own interpretations of what you are feeling or thinking. And I've seen this go sideways a couple times where just sitting there and just kind of listening attentively, maybe taking some notes, but not commenting, not reacting in a way of positive or neutral. They'd be like, well, I know you're angry. I mean, I'm not. And okay, this has nothing to do with emotion here. I'm just trying to understand your position. Have you finished stating your point? That's a very direct, very professional way of saying, are you done yet? But then the other person, in feeling that they may have upset you, may overcompensate and make concessions. So silence is sometimes golden, sometimes not. The next one is planned concessions. So this is part of that highball method as well. And we have that list of must-haves and would like to haves. It's about knowing what you're ready to give up. And what happens when you give up something that you have previously stated, I really want this, is really important to me. The other party, they may feel obliged to also give up something. It's part of our human nature of reciprocity, where we go, okay, they've done something for me, I'm going to do something for them, especially if you're working towards a win-win. They'll want to make it equal. They don't want it to be that they've won or appear to have won. It's a weird psychology thing. But it's a tactic that helps influence their behavior. I'm going to give a little, you give a little, and it will happen. And then lastly, venue. The venue of the negotiation is extremely important. So recently, in the last few years, we did a major supply negotiation. We brought in all our top suppliers. We were going through price reductions, renegotiation of payment terms and conditions in general, went through issues, the whole thing. So for about a year, every week, we went through 4 or 5 suppliers, major negotiations, the whole planning process, in addition to our running the business. And venue was big. One of the things that we said is we wanted the suppliers to come out to Modesto, California. So we had them from all over the globe fly in to California and drive to Modesto. And we're like, why would we do that? Why wouldn't we just meet in a neutral location like Chicago or New York or LA? Why would we make them come to Modesto? Well, part of our thing was we wanted to be on our turf. We wanted them to see our business and how it was operating. We also wanted them to be slightly uncomfortable because they're going to the mothership and they're having to negotiate with us. And it was our level footing. Also, for whatever reason, my office at that time, which had a conference table in it where we'd have these negotiations, was super cold. Well, I knew to adapt to that, but the others did not. So being cold made them uncomfortable. Therefore, I was comfortable, kind of gave me a little bit of an upper hand. There's other little evil things you can do to create stress for the other party, and especially if you feel like it's going to be an acrimonious kind of negotiation at first, to throw them off kilter, you can do things like give them uncomfortable chairs, have them face the sun, weird stuff like that, that actually venue matters. Setting up time meetings at 8 o'clock in the morning after they've traveled is another evil way of throwing people off in the negotiation tactics. But it works, and it works especially when it comes to establishing power. All right. Now, like I said, these are all different tactics. Some are good, meaning good towards leaning towards a win-win, open, honest communication. Others seem a little shady, but they are all applicable and they all are relevant. You may use some in some negotiation, others in another negotiation. I have 3 or 4 that I'm really, really comfortable with, and depending on the relationship with the supplier or the situation, I can flex between them. Same as most soft skills, you can do the same. It just takes practice. Ultimately, what we're trying to do in a long-term supply agreement or pretty much any business arrangement, if you can, seek a win-win. What that means is both parties come to a collaborative, negotiated agreement. They understand each other's needs and wants. They are focused on the common goal of keeping both businesses thriving and healthy. They conduct efforts to solve problems, meaning there's no blame storming, and they work to solve the problems at hand and encourage each other through the process. Whereas a win-lose is what most people think of in negotiation. They think of the haggling at the flea market. They think of going through a car process, the old way buying cars, and rigid negotiation positions of I'm going to have it my way or no way, and really putting the issue of fixed value on winning. It's like, I must win this negotiation. There's no winning in negotiation if both parties can't work together. Unless you don't want to do business with them, then that's a whole nother discussion. Also, power becomes a bigger thing. Manipulation becomes a bigger thing. Because again, we're looking for our self-interest instead of what's good for the common group, meaning both parties. Because after all, purchasing is a function within a business, which is part of a supply chain. And if the chain doesn't win together, then there is no winner and loser. We're all just losing. So, I'm heavily bent on win-win, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for winning together because it's about competitive advantage. Now, lastly, negotiations will differ in different cultures. I recommend doing research. So first of all, if you're going to be negotiating with a supplier that is in another country and English is not their primary language, but you may want to ask them if they need translation services. And that is not a disrespect. In fact, it's honoring them. And you can explain that. We just want to make sure that we are all able to communicate in an effective manner. No indication of your abilities to speak English. It's our abilities to make sure we are able to communicate effectively. Be prepared to have an interpreter or arrange for one or for them to bring one. Speak in the native language if you can, just to eliminate the issues, but also understand cultural implications of things like emotion, slang, use of personal space, and acceptance of outside information. So what I mean by that is, in certain cultures, if you don't show emotion, you're not doing it right. We're Italian and Brazilians typically emotion is welcome. If you're not getting excited about something, then it's not important to you. And that's not what you want in a business negotiation. To communicate is not important to you. Where in Japanese culture and Asian cultures, emotion is absolutely not welcome. So you need to be able to understand the differences. So do your research. Look at Hofstede's cultural dimensions. Look up some things that can help you perceive how to better approach a tactic in other countries. Do your research on multiple levels. And I'm not just talking Wikipedia either. Stick to common English language. So if you're speaking to someone that does speak English well, and you're negotiating with them, don't use slang or idioms or sayings that they may not understand. Stick to the common language. Also understand personal space. Some cultures like to hug and be really close to each other during negotiations that make Americans feel really weird because we have our big old bubble that we don't want people to cross into. And handshakes are completely acceptable. Whereas France, kissing the cheeks is completely acceptable. Not here. So be aware and be ready to adapt. And then this whole concept of outside information. Some cultures don't acknowledge or accept or seek outside information outside of their culture. So be aware that there can be some resistance. Above all, do research. It does matter. All right. So that wraps up the topic on negotiations. There's more in your text, of course. You're always welcome to reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you if you have questions. If you're dealing with a negotiation or going into one or want more war stories, certainly I have them. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Otherwise, I look forward to hearing from you and reading your assignments. Have a great week.